Most cities don't collapse all at once. They don't vanish overnight or disappear from the map in a dramatic moment. Instead, they fade slowly. One family moves out, a factory closes, a school loses funding, a neighborhood goes quiet, and before anyone notices, the city everyone thought would last forever is quietly shrinking. Across the United States, there are cities in every region that are losing people faster than anywhere else around them. Not because of one single disaster, but because of a long chain of decisions, economic shifts, and realities that are impossible to ignore. These are places that once mattered deeply, places that fueled industries, raised generations, and anchored entire regions. Today, they are shrinking faster than anyone expected. In the Northeast, decline often hides behind history. Many cities there were built early, thrived early, and aged early. One of the fastest declining cities in this region sits along a river that once powered factories and mills. For decades, this city was a magnet for workers. Immigrants arrived by the thousands, drawn by steady jobs and affordable housing. Entire neighborhoods formed around factories that ran day and night. At its peak, the city felt unstoppable. But as manufacturing moved overseas and automation replaced labor, the jobs vanished. What followed was not sudden collapse, but a long, grinding slowdown. Young people left first, chasing opportunity elsewhere. Families followed. Property values stagnated, then fell. Schools consolidated. Infrastructure aged without replacement. Today, the city's population is a fraction of what it once was, and every census confirms the same pattern: more people leaving than arriving. The buildings still stand, but many are empty. The streets still exist, but fewer people walk them. The decline feels quiet, but it is relentless. What makes this northeastern decline especially painful is that the bones of these cities are still strong. They were built to last. Brick buildings, dense layouts, walkable neighborhoods. But without jobs to sustain them, even the best designed cities struggle. Attempts at revitalization come and go. A new development here, a tax incentive there. But reversing population loss is harder than stopping it. Once a city develops a reputation for decline, it becomes difficult to attract new residents, no matter how rich its history may be. In the Midwest, decline looks different. It is broader, flatter, and more visible. The fastest declining city in this region once symbolized American industrial power. Steel, automobiles, machinery. This city helped build the country. At its height, the population soared, and wages supported middle-class lives that felt secure and permanent. Entire suburbs sprang up to house workers. Downtown thrived. But when the factories closed or downsized, the impact was devastating. Unlike coastal cities, there were fewer alternative industries waiting to absorb displaced workers. Job losses hit fast and hard. Population decline followed almost immediately. Over time, entire neighborhoods were abandoned. Homes were left empty, schools closed, services were reduced. What remains today is a city struggling to redefine itself while carrying the weight of its past. The population continues to drop year after year, not because people want to leave, but because staying offers fewer and fewer opportunities. Even those who love this city often feel forced to go. The Midwest's fastest declining cities are not failing because of a lack of identity. They are failing because the economic systems they depended on disappeared, and replacements never fully arrived. In the South, decline can be harder to notice at first. The region as a whole is growing, but not evenly. While major metros boom, smaller cities and former industrial hubs are quietly shrinking. The fastest declining southern city once thrived on a single dominant industry. It might have been textiles, coal, oil, or manufacturing. For decades, that industry defined life there. Jobs were stable, wages were predictable, and people stayed for generations. But when that industry declined, the city had little else to fall back on. Unlike larger southern metros that diversified, the city remained tied to its past. As jobs disappeared, young people left. Colleges nearby funneled graduates outward instead of inward. Housing remained cheap, but cheap housing alone is not enough to keep a city alive. Population decline accelerated quietly year by year. Today, the city struggles with aging infrastructure, limited investment, and a shrinking tax base. The South's fastest declining cities often exist in the shadow of booming neighbors, which makes the contrast even more stark. Growth is happening nearby, just not here. Out west, decline takes on a different character. The fastest declining western city is not old, dense, or industrial in the traditional sense. Instead, it is often tied to resource extraction or a military presence. For years, the city grew rapidly, fueled by a specific purpose. When that purpose faded, so did the population. The western landscape makes decline feel more dramatic. Vast distances, open land, and limited alternatives amplify the sense of isolation once people begin leaving. In some cases, climate plays a role. Water shortages, extreme heat, or environmental damage make life harder and more expensive. In others, the problem is distance. When jobs disappear, there are few nearby options. People don't move across town, they move across states. The result is a city that shrinks quickly, leaving behind infrastructure built for far more people than remain. Empty subdivisions, underused highways, and shuttered businesses tell the story without words. The most striking thing about America's fastest declining cities is how predictable their stories are in hindsight. Dependence on a single industry. Failure to diversify. Population loss leading to reduced services, which accelerates more population loss. Once the cycle begins, stopping it requires enormous effort, coordination, and time. Some cities manage to stabilize. Others continue shrinking year after year. What these cities share is not laziness, corruption, or lack of effort. It is timing. They were built for an economy that no longer exists. And while some regions adapt faster than others, adaptation is never guaranteed. Decline is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle enough that people don't notice until the city has already changed beyond recognition. People often assume that population decline means a city is dead. That is not always true. Life continues. Communities adapt. People who stay often develop stronger bonds. But decline does change everything. It affects schools, hospitals, transportation, housing, and opportunity. It shapes how people see their future and whether they believe that future exists where they are. Across the Northeast, Midwest, South, and West, the fastest declining cities serve as warnings. Not warnings of inevitable failure, but reminders that growth is never permanent. Cities rise because conditions allow them to rise. They fall when those conditions disappear. The most dangerous assumption any city can make is that its success is guaranteed. By the time a city is labeled as declining, the process has usually been underway for decades. Census numbers confirm what residents already feel: fewer faces, quieter streets, less optimism. And yet, many of these cities continue fighting to survive, reinvent, and hold on. Decline is not the end of the story, but it is a chapter that cannot be ignored. When population loss accelerates beyond a certain point, the consequences become harder to reverse. A shrinking city does not simply get smaller, it becomes structurally different. Services designed for hundreds of thousands are suddenly supporting far fewer people. Roads still need maintenance. Water systems still need oversight. Emergency services still need staffing. But with fewer residents paying taxes, every system feels the strain. This is the moment when decline stops being theoretical and starts becoming visible in everyday life. Schools consolidate or close entirely. Hospitals downsize or disappear. Public transit routes are cut back. What once felt like temporary adjustment begins to feel permanent. In some of the fastest declining cities, entire neighborhoods slip into a kind of suspended state. Houses remain standing but unoccupied. Lawns grow wild, windows darken. The city technically exists, but large sections no longer function the way they once did. Residents who remain often describe a sense of quiet unease, not because the city is dangerous, but because it feels unfinished, like a place slowly being erased in pieces rather than all at once. The psychological impact of decline is often overlooked. People who stay are constantly reminded of what the city used to be. Empty buildings are not neutral. They carry memory. Every closed store and abandoned school reinforces the idea that the best days are behind them. This affects how people invest emotionally. Why renovate a home if property values continue to fall? Why open a business if the customer base keeps shrinking? Over time, even optimism becomes a scarce resource. In the Northeast, some of the fastest declining cities attempt reinvention through culture, education, or tourism. Old factories become lofts, waterfronts are redesigned, universities expand their presence. These efforts can slow decline, but rarely reverse it completely. The problem is scale. Small successes struggle to counter decades of population loss. A few thousand new residents cannot replace the hundreds of thousands who left. Revitalization often concentrates in a few blocks, while the rest of the city continues to empty out. In the Midwest, the challenge is even more severe. Many declining cities are surrounded by other declining towns. There is no nearby boom to borrow momentum from. When young people leave, they don't move to the next city over. They move across the country. This creates a feedback loop where talent drain accelerates decline. Businesses hesitate to invest. Employers struggle to recruit. Even when new industries attempt to move in, they face an uphill battle convincing workers to relocate to a city with a shrinking reputation. Southern cities that are declining face a different paradox. They exist in a region often associated with growth. This makes their struggles less visible nationally, but no less real locally. As surrounding metro areas expand, these cities are bypassed. Highways reroute traffic around them. Investment flows elsewhere. Over time, they become islands of stagnation in a sea of growth. Residents can see prosperity nearby, but it remains just out of reach. In the West, decline is often tied to a single moment: a base closure, a mine shutting down, a resource drying up. These cities can shrink rapidly because they were built quickly and for a specific purpose. When that purpose disappears, there's little left to anchor people in place. The distances involved mean relocation is often total. People don't commute farther, they leave entirely. Once population drops below a certain threshold, recovery becomes extremely difficult. What unites all these regions is the role of time. Decline does not announce itself clearly at the beginning. Early warning signs are easy to dismiss. A few businesses close. A school loses enrollment. Census numbers dip slightly. Leaders reassure residents that the downturn is temporary. By the time the reality becomes undeniable, reversing course requires resources many cities no longer have. Some cities try aggressive strategies: tax breaks, land banks, demolition programs, marketing campaigns. While these can stabilize conditions, they rarely restore former population levels. The goal quietly shifts from growth to survival, from expansion to maintenance, from attracting newcomers to supporting those who remain. And yet, decline does not mean absence of life. In many of America's fastest declining cities, tight-knit communities persist. Neighbors know each other. Costs are low. Space is abundant. For some, this creates a kind of freedom that booming cities cannot offer. Artists, retirees, and people seeking quiet sometimes move in, drawn by affordability and space. But these arrivals are usually too few to offset ongoing losses. One of the most difficult truths is that not every city can be saved in the way people imagine. Geography, economics, and demographics impose limits. Policymakers often avoid saying this out loud, but residents sense it. The question becomes not how to restore the past, but how to manage decline with dignity. How to ensure safety, services, and quality of life for a smaller population. Across the country, the fastest declining cities are forcing a re-evaluation of what success looks like. Is it growth at all costs or stability at a smaller scale? Is it attracting new residents or improving conditions for those who stay? These are not abstract debates. They shape budgets, planning decisions, and daily life. What makes these cities especially important is that they offer a glimpse into a possible future for others. Economic shifts continue, automation advances, climate pressures grow, industries change faster than cities can adapt. Decline may not remain confined to the places experiencing it now. Today's booming city can become tomorrow's cautionary tale if it fails to adapt. The fastest declining city in each region is not an outlier. It is an extreme example of a broader pattern. When systems rely too heavily on a single source of stability, they become fragile. When diversification is delayed, resilience weakens. These cities show what happens when change arrives faster than preparation. And yet, even in decline, there is agency. Choices still matter. Investment still matters. Leadership still matters. Cities that acknowledge reality early tend to fare better than those that deny it. Honesty, while uncomfortable, creates space for realistic planning. Decline managed deliberately is different from decline ignored. As populations shrink, landscapes change. Nature reclaims space. Vacant lots become green fields. Wildlife returns. In some cities, this transformation becomes part of a new identity. Fewer people does not always mean less life. It means different life, slower life, quieter life. For some residents, that trade-off is worth it. The story of America's fastest declining cities is not just about loss. It is about transition. About the end of one era and the uncertain beginning of another. These cities remind us that growth is not permanent, decline is not instant, and adaptation is never guaranteed. As the country continues to change, these places sit at the edge of that change, absorbing its impacts first and most intensely. Watching them closely offers lessons that extend far beyond their borders. Because in a nation defined by movement and reinvention, decline is not a failure of effort. It is a consequence of time, structure, and shifting realities. And the most important question is not which city is declining the fastest. It's which ones will learn to survive what comes next.